Hello. Happy Sunday night. Can y'all hear me? Thumbs up if you can hear me. You can see me. All right. So, y'all know what time it is. I hope y'all had a wonderful Sunday. You can't see me. I'm wearing my Shedeur t-shirt, pick up one in the What She Said sports gear store. You see the products, they're being displayed. We already got one order in. Yay! We actually had three. So I can't wait till they get the orders, the customers get their orders, our supporters, so we can start sharing the photos of their outfit of today, representing the Shedurian look. I wore it on a couple of other videos too. So, all right. I hope everybody had a good Sunday. We're going to get lit. All right. So, first and foremost, Shadur Sanders was supposedly, and it's fact or fiction, but we're going to talk about regardless. If it's really true that Shadur Sanders bypassed or declined to be drafted by the Raiders in the 5th round, duh. What else did you expect? Why would Shadur Sanders go to the Ravens? And why is it a team where he will be paired up like a lot of other black quarterbacks who never will get the opportunity to start? He didn't want to become a pair or a triplet. Now, what this proves to me, while the NFL, the establishment, which includes the media, thinks they're doing something by putting this out, you know what they're telling us? That Shadur was colluded against, that he was locked out of the 1st round, according to them. It was good he didn't come to Green Bay because no team had a grade on him. Turns out that's not true. People are starting to come forward. A few general managers saying, nah, we had a grade on him. They weren't allowed to draft Shadur. And then what else happened before the draft? It's documented. Mike Tomlin was advised to draft Shadur Sanders at QB2, which explains being locked out of the 1st round because they didn't want him to become what Cam Ward is, QB1. So the NFL is telling on itself. You're telling me you restricted his movement, telling me that another team made a bid for him in the 5th round when the NFL itself had Shadur in the 1st round. And now people coming out, the NFL is saying no team had a grade on him, and that's not true. What does it say right here by the Associated Press? 3 teams had a 1st round grade on Shadur, and it makes sense because the NFL itself had scouts projected to have Shadur go number 1. One scout said if Shadur Sanders does not get drafted number 1, there's going to be a problem, meaning in the 1st round. If Shadur Sanders is not drafted in the 1st round, there's going to be a problem. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem. Collusion is being proven with Adam Schefter telling us, trying to make the NFL look like they were justified and having Shadur be down low. Oh, he difficult. He didn't want to go down there. When it's already documented. They said it was good he didn't come to Green Bay because nobody had a grade on him. False. And you can see right here, 3 GMs had a 1st round grade. They were shocked that Shadur wasn't drafted. Now we need to know how many teams wanted to get him after the 1st pick or the 2nd pick or the 3rd pick, since he was locked out of the 1st round. And it's coming out that people are lying once again. So what's being exposed? Collusion. All you telling me is that he was locked out of the 1st round, and the most he could be is a 5th round pick. Because why? He would be a developmental project and they could discard him. I have a screenshot right now that says by the time Cleveland ends training camp, Dylan or Shadur will be gone. And they both are still there. So it tells you they can't do what they want to do. They've been trying to cut Shadur, and they can't. What did Haslam tell you? They were in a room when there was some kind of phone call and the right people were in the room. Y'all know why Shadur got drafted. And all the NFL is telling you is they restricted his movement. First by lying and saying that there were no 1st round grades on him when it says it right here, there were at least 3. We're going to get to the truth. Because there were at least 3. And then before the draft, Mike Tomlin is advised to draft Shadur and make him QB2. So you're going to draft Shadur at number 21 and make him a project in the 1st round when he's expected to make an impact. Did Lamar Jackson start his first year when he was drafted first round, pick 31 or 32? I think it was pick 32. Yes. It went on to become the unanimous MVP. So it shows you the NFL set to devalue Shedeur by lying and saying that he was locked out of the first round. And now people starting to tell the truth. This is the part I've been waiting on. When the different sides of the story start to come out. So now we got 3 out of 32 that had a first round grade on him. We know the NFL had him projected first round. And now with Baltimore coming out and saying, well, we were going to get him, they chose a team. See, when Haslam said the right people were in the room, they were trying to choose a team for Shedeur to go to. Remember my little chart of 17 to 32? I said he can only go certain places. So they were going to bury him behind Lamar Jackson. For people saying he was going to go to Philadelphia, they were going to bury him behind Jalen Hurts. They thought they were going to bury him behind somebody in Cleveland, but it ain't working out. Flacco is 0 for 2. And Dillon got in the game at the last minute, and they set him up with 3 for 3 and a little touchdown to Dylan Sampson, the running back, like I told y'all they was going to do. I told you they wouldn't put Dillon out there till Quinshon Judkins came back. And he gets out there at the end of the game, and they want to make him look like the hero. Well, let me see you starting. All they're going to do is hand off the ball to Quinshon Judkins, and that's cool if that's what you want to do. But don't sit up there and lie that Shedeur ain't good. You just don't want to have Shedeur as your starting quarterback. And remember, the NFL said what? Before the draft. See, the NFL should just shh. Because remember, the same insiders that sat down and told you that Shedeur passed on the Ravens were the same insiders that told you Shedeur was the number 2 overall pick to Cleveland, which means Cleveland know who the hell Shedeur is. So why they pretending like he's not good? For the same reason that Adam Schefter sat there and told you that he was difficult by saying he didn't want to go to the Ravens. No, he didn't want to be buried behind another black quarterback like so many other black quarterbacks are. And I don't blame him. Duh. He was supposed to be a first-round pick. They scouted him with the first-round pick. And then they want to do a little bait and switch during the draft. Just because you're telling on yourself. You lied and said somebody for the Falcons gave out his phone number and made a phone call. Well, that ain't true. In fact, the Ole Miss sweatshirt guy ties right on back to the New York Giants, who was the only team to defame Shedeur, who Pat Schumer used to work for, by the way. Let's not get lost on that. It's documented from the anonymous source that Shedeur Sanders changed Pat Schumer's plays, and the NFL don't seem to like that. And now, Coach Prime looked like he being set up by the same Pat Schumer. So it seemed like the NFL to creep their way over to Colorado, and they're meddling because they want to dictate who comes out of these colleges at quarterback. And Coach Prime currently has 3 black quarterbacks out of 5. And you see, supposedly the boosters over there meddling, trying to force up style, and he not good. And what does that do for Coach Prime? We're going to talk about it tomorrow. Stay tuned. I read his contract. So the NFL is telling on itself. As people come out and tell the truth, they trying to make Shedeur look difficult. Who they trying to convince? Nobody believes Shedeur is a difficult person. Everybody sees he's getting, whether you want to say a raw deal, being done dirty, he's being colluded against in Cleveland. Everybody knows Shedeur is better than Flacco, and Flacco was only good for half a season. It tickled me to hear the analysts associated with the Browns organization of podcasters complain about Kevin Stefanski's generic play calling. I said, because he came from Pat Schumer, so what did you expect? Same thing going on in Colorado. Same thing. So the NFL is telling on itself, and it's telling lies. First, the defensive coordinator son and the Atlanta Falcons gave out Shedeur number. That ain't true. It's the New York Giants, somebody associated with some inside info. Supposedly the daughter of the boyfriend. Now, nobody had a first-round grade on him. That ain't true. At least 3 teams had a first-round grade on it. And we already know they wanted Mike Tomlin to pick him to be what? QB2, which tells you even in the first round, when most quarterbacks go on inherent QB1, they were going to hold him back from the jump. They had planned from the very beginning before the draft to devalue Shedeur Sanders. I mean, they were bold enough to have Mel Kiper Jr. go on ESPN and say the NFL don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur. The NFL don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders now, that kind of quarterback. And we know they're not talking about pocket passer or dual threat, because look what they got now. Look what was drafted before him and after him. So we know they're not talking about his skill set. And we watched him ball out with that skill set that they said was going to outproduce his draft stock. So the NFL is telling us they knew before the draft that he was not going to be picked in the first round because they locked him out. Well, they didn't do a good job of locking him out, because now some people coming out and saying that ain't true. And Haslam told you, if you would have told me he was going to get drafted, I would have been like, oh, he confirmed it for you. They thought they locked him out. And since they didn't want him, what they're guilty of is trying to exploit him for views and humiliate him and exclude him, which is nothing but tactics from Jim Crow, which is just straight racism. I mean, how many lawsuits for violating Black people's civil rights does the NFL have to get before it learns to stop being racist against Black quarterbacks? This is not a new phenomenon. They did it to Lamar Jackson. No coincidence they want to send Shedeur over there with Lamar. Just like it's not a coincidence that they compared Lamar Jackson to Geno Smith, which meant he was going to be a voyager and travel around the league and never have a home base and get called trash, and they was going to kick him out. But like Geno Smith said, they wrote me off, but I ain't right back. And we already know Cleveland going to go through every quarterback on their damn roster before they get to Shedeur. That's your business. That's between you and your damn fans. If they want to sit up there and pay for you to play in their face, that's on y'all. That's on them fans and them analysts that are shocked by Kevin Stefanski's generic play calling. How are you shocked? He's not new there. Like, what is it going to take for them to wise up that these people playing in their face? They went and got a Black former NFL player to be a partner. Where is he? How come we don't see him no more? It's funny that he came out conveniently around the time of the draft, so you wouldn't think what they was getting ready to do to Shedeur was racist. Just using people like Andrew Berry as a token or a pawn to hide your dirty work. But Haslam already told you he didn't want him, so why you get it? We know why he didn't go to the Ravens. Why are we not hearing anybody come out that they were going to get him at the end of the first round or in the middle of the second or the third? Because you're confirming that you devalued him, and by the fifth round, the sense of urgency kicked in, and you was finding somewhere for him to go, so you was going to bury him on certain teams behind another Black quarterback and in that division, because you wasn't going to put him over there with Josh Allen. Sure wasn't. You ain't going to put him over there with Pat Mahomes either. And apparently you weren't going to put him anywhere in the NFC. It had to be either where Cleveland is, Baltimore is. But it's funny how it couldn't be Pittsburgh, but it could be Baltimore. Why it couldn't be Pittsburgh? Because remember, he was supposed to go 21 to Pittsburgh. Why it had to be Baltimore? Because Steve Pittsburgh got rid of their quarterbacks. So he would have been QB1. And if Aaron Rodgers had already signed his contract, which he had not at the time, supposedly said he wasn't going there. Whether he said it or not, the point is they risked losing Aaron Rodgers if they drafted Shedeur. Regardless if he said it or not, that's the impression that was given. So he blocked that spot. Aaron Rodgers, just like Derek Carr did in New Orleans, he retired after the draft. Because had he retired before, Derek Carr retired before the draft, Shedeur could have went right over there to the Saints, because they were like, we don't need a franchise QB. But then Derek Carr leaves after the draft. You see? A lot of people blocking Shedeur. Why the hell you drafted? You didn't have to draft him. You said you didn't want him. So why did you have to draft? Why did you draft him? Because you had to draft him. See, you was caught up in humiliating him so much that somebody kicked the door in. The people radar that you want to stay off, the executive branch. All that big money they paid to stay out the executive branch, and they drew the executive branch right on them. And now they trying to want to still be bold with it. Still want to kick on Shedeur like we don't know who Shedeur is. Who the hell they trying to convince? Everybody sees that the media is part of the establishment, which means you can't trust nothing they say. And they only bearing down on one person. The person that came through the door with 3 million fans that see the bullshit. Shedeurians or people with common sense, whatever you want to call it. But we football fans. So they trying to spin and make the same play that they made before the draft. It's the same thing, trying to make Shedeur seem undesirable and difficult before they make an asinine decision. If you're going to cut him, cut him. It's a lot of people going to cheer for the day he get cut. Because it's a lot of people that believe it's God that opened the door, and we see you still trying to cut him and you ain't done it yet. And the day that you do, you're going to set him free to go on to greatness. So cut it. Threaten people with a good time, because we ain't got to be bothered with Cleveland no more. The farce of a team that they done put together and the game that they played today, their season is trash. Because they chose to be mediocre than to have black excellence. That's what's wrong with Cleveland. That's what's wrong with the NFL. I'm watching these quarterbacks all over, in college and in the NFL. Under attack. I'm watching the Atlanta game right now. They keep showing Kirk Cousins, asking why it is that Kirk Cousins isn't the starter. Because he trash. That's why. They just not happy. See, the establishment is so used to having their way with 16 black quarterbacks, they freaking out. 17 is around the corner somewhere. And it's like they doing everything to make sure that don't happen. I would call it desperation, but it's just straight wicked. So the NFL telling on itself. Of course, Shedeur didn't want to go and be buried behind Lamar Jackson. Of course he didn't. So they sent him to Cleveland and decided to bury him over there with a fake competition, which means they was willing to expose themselves and their corruption rather than let this young man truly compete and ball out. Because it shows you that they don't want a black QB, long-term, successful franchise quarterback. If that's the case, why you pre-draft with him? That's he over there. Guys said, y'all not going to play this game. You said you was going to pay him $46 million to be a quarterback. He coming over there. And the truth is being exposed. Kevin Stefanski looks like a trash coach that he is. They think they want Arch Manning. All they going to do is rip that franchise apart. Good. They don't want Shedeur because he's a black franchise QB. That's really what it is. That's all it is. Okay, my cameras are swapped. That's all it is. So, my analysis is it's not a surprise that Shedeur didn't want to go to Baltimore and be buried on the depth chart. It's not. I think it was smart of him. And a lot of people feel like, he's not going to get a fair shake. He's not. At what point do you see the NFL stopping this wicked path that they're on to destroy this young man's career? Draft and destroy. In Cleveland, it's draft, destroy, humiliate, exclude. Jim Crow. At what point do you see Cleveland willing to accept a Lenor Sellers or Shedeur Sanders as a successful long-term franchise quarterback? Understand this. You think they paid Deshaun Watson $230 million to be their franchise QB. No, they didn't. No, they did not. Deshaun Watson has never even played a majority of the games, and he's showing you every single day he's good to go. Every single day he showed you he's good to go. And they could trade him. But does the NFL want that? Does the NFL want Deshaun Watson to reap any benefits from his career? after they seemingly gave him back every damn dime that he paid out in settlements, plus some. No. In fact, nobody else can even have Deshaun Watson's contract, which tells you it was a special circumstance under which it was given. I wonder what that was. Maybe retaliation. They keep on. Shadur gonna have one for $500 million because they barking up that tree right now. They telling on themselves. The more they try to make Shadur look bad, they're incriminating themselves. We already know you colluded because the owners took him off the board. Here's what you're telling us now. You're telling us that you went through the trouble to defame him, because if you cut him, he could turn around and sue you. Defame him when you just didn't want to draft him, but you was greedy and you wanted us to come watch the draft. So you lured him in under false pretenses that he was going to be the number 2 overall pick, and conveniently 2 weeks before the draft, you backpedal. Even as late going to Colorado, still acting like you interested in Shedeur when you was never going to get Shedeur because you had already decided to trade that pick. And now people saying Travis is trash, so it could look like Haslam made a good decision to trade away Travis. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You're not convincing nobody. All you telling us is you locked him out of the first round, or so you thought. And you was going to let him fall out to probably an undrafted free agent, or so you thought. All you telling us is your plans have backfired. All you have been is exposed. You lied and said the Falcons gave away Shedeur number. Nope, the NFL gave away Shedeur number. You lied and said it was the defensive coordinator's son that called Shedeur when we sitting there looking at blonde hair with an Ole Miss sweatshirt on, supposed to be the boyfriend of the New York Giants, the only organization to defame Shedeur. All you telling us by leaking that Baltimore was interested in him in the 5th round is that this was an orchestrated, poorly orchestrated and exposed plot that blew up and backfired in your face. And you still trying to blame Shedeur for your hatred. That's what you telling us. I'm waiting for somebody to come out and say we was going to get him in the 2nd round or 3rd. But the fact that everybody in the 5th round tells me that after 47 came through, I guess y'all had to figure out what to do. And even when you got them phone call that Haslam was talking about, you still decided to collude against him and try to bury him behind Lamar Jackson, who you also humiliated and colluded against in the damn draft, which means you don't know when to quit. That's what you telling us. You gonna eat yourself. You gonna burn it all down before you stop being racist. All right. Because it ain't the NFL versus Shedeur. It's the establishment versus God. That's why Shedeur got drafted. So keep playing at your own risk. You ain't convincing us of nothing. Nothing. But that all y'all willing to do is sell a mediocre product rather than have Black excellence. That's what you're telling us. You ain't convincing us nothing about Shedeur. We know who the hell he is. You didn't make him. You can't break it. But we see you can't cut him either. We see that. We see who really got the power. And it ain't you. So Adam Schefter sitting there telling us that the Baltimore Ravens wanted to get Shedeur and bury him behind another Black quarterback is making people look at the chart that I created that has several Black quarterbacks paired up together, which looks like a lot of people being colluded against, right? Look like a lot of Black quarterbacks being colluded against. So keep talking. The same Adam Schefter also told us that Shedeur was going to be the number 2 overall pick for about $46 million to the Cleveland Browns, who treat Shedeur like they met him yesterday. Like they don't think he good. It just shows that the Cleveland Browns seemingly pre-draft with Shedeur under false pretenses. So the question is, how far back does this plot go? Does it go back to Vegas? Because you knew coming into the 2024 season that there will be 15 Black quarterbacks? Just like you knew coming into the 2025 draft with Shedeur, there will be 17. All you're doing is telling us the truth. Whether you know it or not, people are putting together and connecting the dots. So you just shh. But see, that's what arrogance does. It can't shut up. It tells on itself. Keep talking. Keep talking. I want to know who else was gonna get it. Let me see when a lie gonna come out that somebody was gonna get it in the fourth, third, and first. No, what they trying to prove is that the owners didn't take him off the board. That's what they trying to prove by saying that he was available for Baltimore. But we're gonna need to see some proof of that. I'm gonna need to see some proof of it. And I'm gonna need to know at what round did you put him back on the board? Was it after when 47 came through? Because if he slid from 1, 2, 3, 4, and only people were interested in the 5, bingo. That's when you put him back on the board. When Andrew Berry decided to trade 2 picks in the same round with a sense of urgency. When he was asked coming into that day, how do you feel when Shedeur Sanders is still on the board on day 3? And he very nonchalantly said, and I quote, "We just gonna see how far he fell." There you go. So that tells you coming into day 3, he still wasn't on the board. But somewhere between day 3, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and Cleveland, the sense of urgency came. Keep talking. Keep talking. Keep talking. So we done narrowed it down. So the phone call came in and Andrew Berry wasn't interested on day 3. But suddenly midday, day 3, things changed. I wonder what that kind of communication looked like. I wonder what that kind of discovery looked like. Is it a text message? Because we know they got cameras in the green rooms because the Carolina Panthers used it to make their pre-draft video, which came out very cinematic and nice, by the way. So we know it's available for the other teams too. We know these phone calls that Mike Tomlin talked about are also somehow recorded. We know who were in the rooms when these phone calls came in and we had to listen. So we means it was more than Mike Tomlin and it's recorded. Keep talking. Keep talking. All you're doing is telling on yourself. So keep talking. So if Deshaun Watson got $230 million, how much you think Shedeur gonna get? You know what he ought to sue for? And he gonna even have to sue. He ought to push for equity in one of these teams. Let's go with Cleveland. So let me see what y'all think. Says, old man said, I believe Baltimore was going to get him, but I agree with Shedeur for not wanting to go. Baltimore, it said because Lamar will be the starter there for 10 years. Right. They carefully chose Baltimore. Remember what I told y'all about Shedeur can only go to certain teams. And I told y'all before that Shedeur Sanders was pigeonholed to Cleveland. Look at the division he's in. Look at who he would have to compete with. And I want you to pay attention to the NFC East. I'm getting ready to show you. This is why they chose Baltimore. Why didn't they choose a team like Miami? Think about it. They know Tua is like has some kind of deal where he can only get so many concussions and he's not working out, right? You know why they didn't pick Miami? Because Josh Allen over there. That's why they didn't pick Miami. That's exactly why they didn't pick it. So they carefully are choosing these black starting quarterbacks. They're trying to devalue them so they don't become QB1s or starters so that they can get paired behind another black quarterback so they don't take a white quarterback's job like JJ McCarthy. In fact, they went and got Carson Wentz off the bench so they don't have to get nobody and put them behind JJ McCarthy. Carson Wentz. So JJ McCarthy don't work out after they gave him the keys to the team without 0 seconds of NFL film his rookie year. They got Carson Wentz waiting in the wings. They moving fast to make sure by the time the 2026 draft comes, you're going to be a QB2 even if you're in the first round. Everybody that they wanted to be the top 5 is not working out. Arch Manning isn't working out. They got to scramble and find somewhere else. Lenor Sellers got hit and was laid out on the ground for 5 minutes. I was like, his daddy should have took that money and he should have moved to another conference and went play over there. Because I'm gonna tell you something. This look like he's getting a little malicious. See, this is far beyond football. It is far beyond musical chairs or where you go here and there. As it stacks up, that 17, we get closer and closer to 17, you're starting to see things happen to make sure that this black quarterback doesn't materialize. Hell, understand this, 2 coaches got fired today. Now, understand this. They both lost 3 games. Okay? They both lost 3 games. I'm going to put the chart on the screen while I tell you this. Virginia Tech coach lost 3 games. And UCLA's coach lost 3 games. But see, here's the kicker, right? UCLA's coach is new. This is his first year. And they fired him after 3 games. And they must think people only read headlines because Virginia Tech coach has had 2 seasons in 3 games. And it just says Virginia Tech and UCLA coach fired after 3 games. One is black and one is white. How you gonna fire somebody after 3 games? And get this, Deshaun Foster is alum from UCLA and he's in their Hall of Fame for sports. And they did him straight dirty. And his quarterback, Nico Liavaliama, remember from Tennessee? You know what it feels like? It feels like retaliation against Nico and Deshaun Foster was collateral damage. And then over to Georgia Tech, guess who their quarterback is? Kyron Drones. So guess what they got? All in one fell swoop. I got 1 black head coach that just started, and I got 2 black quarterbacks disrupted. So let's see where Kyron Drones lands because he was a top, I Googled it. He's a top draft prospect. Now he don't have a coach. Nico, let's see if somebody pick him up because, you know, they wasn't happy that he landed after he left Tennessee. So it feels like retaliation. It feels like they actually knocking Kyron Drones down, but we're going to see. We're going to see where he ends up. If he ends up on a team right now, will he be able to start? Probably not because everybody has a starter. So it feels like disruption. Understand disruption is a strategy in business to take down the incumbents. That's what it is. That's what it looked like. If Nico don't get picked up, retaliation. If Drones don't get to start and it messes with his draft stock, disruption. 17-32. It's getting wicked out here. When I saw Lenor Sellers knocked out on the ground for 5 minutes, I just shook my head. He's supposed to be the number 1 overall pick. They March Madden in front of him until he got booed by his own school. They don't want Lenor Sellers to get to QB1 because that's going to make him number 17. And all the bullshit they did to Shedeur was a waste of time because it's going to happen anyway. It's either going to happen in this season, whether it happens for Shedeur or not, it's going to happen in this season or it's going to happen in the next draft. And hurt Lenor Sellers ain't going to help you because Thomas Castellanos is over there. And while you paying attention to take out Lenor Sellers, it's the dude over there at Arkansas. They talking about he could win the Heisman. The inevitable will happen unless you just going to stop drafting black quarterbacks altogether. And if you say you don't want a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders, then you should have drafted it because now you're going to owe him 3 times as much as you owe Deshaun Watson. It said, I couldn't wait to hear your analysis. I hope you weren't disappointed, Pink. It said, hey, Tina, how you doing? It said, good evening, good evening, good evening. It said, why bring this up now? It said the NFL is a joke because to me, I think a lot of people didn't hear this right here. I think some people know about this. I think they see where several people are coming out and kind of speaking the truth, right? So they need to kind of refute it. But then also, too, it could be just like it was. It could be just like it was with the draft. Remember in the draft that they started this negative smear campaign on Shedeur. Now, remember this first, okay? They said they didn't want him first. We don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders now. That came from an NFL insider, just like it is right now. You see how it's just the same play. So if you didn't want Shedeur, it tells us that their negative campaign that he's entitled, which came from the New York Giants, which is the same words Boomer Esiason said the owners use to take him off the board. It tells you it was pre-planned. We don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur. Shedeur didn't force himself into the draft, but they wanted his celebrity and his popularity. Remember, he was just in the NFL celebrity football game as a celebrity. But then after New Orleans, around February 20th, we don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders now, but they invited him to the combine. Why? For marketing, for clicks. The same thing you see happening. He has the number 5, top 5 selling jersey, not of rookies. He's the top rookie. They still using him for clicks and likes. And just like they did pre-draft, they still defaming him or making him seem difficult. My question is, who are you trying to convince? Because either people like Shedeur or they don't. And you're not going to change anybody's mind either way right now. There's nobody out there that's going to say, based on what Adam Schefter said, oh, I thought he was a good guy, but he's difficult. No. People are going to say one or two things. The NFL still on that BS on hating on this kid. Or, yep, he difficult just like I thought he was. If that's what you want to believe, you already believe that. You believe that back in Colorado. You probably don't like his daddy either. So those kind of people, what are you trying to get out of them? Oh, you want them to come to the game because they're not showing up. There must be what it is, because I don't know who you're trying to convince. You're not convincing anybody that knows who this young man is, anybody that truly knows who football is. You're not convincing them that he's difficult. You are convincing us that you colluded against him and you still at it through the media and in Cleveland. It said UCLA fired their coach today. Yep. It said we'll have to have Coach Prime there in Los Angeles. Some people say Coach Prime could end up at SMU. There are a lot of spots opening. Again, I went through Coach Prime's contract. Thank you, Tina, for sending it. When I saw what happened to Deshaun Foster, I posted on YouTube. I posted, this is wicked, because that man just got the job. But it shows you, even though he's alum at UCLA, even though he's in their sports hall of fame, they still lumped him in a group with another guy who was fired for 2 seasons and 3 games. But they didn't tell you that. You had to go read that. You had to go look that up. They made it, this is how you know it's intentional. They made it appear that this is a sweep. We just getting rid of underperforming coaches. No. This man only been on the job 3 games in the season. This other one, 2 seasons and 3 games. So you didn't do a sweep of underperforming. You targeted him. And your story was developed before you fired him. And you knew the headline would say 2 coaches fired for being 0-3. And you know, and you believe that people don't read. It's that way. Nobody protests. Nobody gets upset. There's no blowback. There's no backlash. But there should be. How you gonna fire somebody after 3 games? Is it because he hired Nico from Tennessee and Tennessee is part of the establishment? Or is it you never wanted him anyway and you somehow felt forced into hiring him? But you didn't mind taking down your own alum. You didn't mind eating your young. That's what the NFL gonna do. The same thing. That man is alum and he in the Sports Hall of Fame, and they did him dirty like that. Why? So you could retaliate against Nico, and we don't know. We see it. Let's see where Nico end up. It's gonna tell you the story. There were people very upset that Nico had the audacity to leave Tennessee. There were people very upset that Jalen Hurts, after being benched by Nick Saban, had the audacity to get up and go to Oklahoma. It's a lot of collateral damage out here this year. 17-32. A lot of retaliation happening. Shedeur too. It said the Browns are a joke. Yup. Hey, Valerie, how you doing? It said you're right, because Pat was calling some ball shift play. Yeah. Pat Schumer is straight off of Kevin Stefanski is straight off of Pat Schumer coaching tree, and it shows. is that they said today that Dillon fit their play style. If Shedeur don't fit their play style, they'll release him instead of let him watch Flacco and Dillon play. Right. And again, that further proves that they're restricting his movement. See, it shows you that this whole process for Shedeur has been about restricting his movement. He was targeted. He was targeted, pigeonholed to go to Cleveland because why? Deshaun Watson was already there. So he would have been paired up with a black quarterback if he was going to be healthy. They don't know. But when they got Shedeur, you see how he ain't come back yet. He could have came back. This ain't about the money. People said, oh, they got Shedeur for cheap because Deshaun Watson contract. No. Ask yourself how Cleveland get a new stadium. Ask yourself how they get $600 million for a new stadium and they've been trash. It's probably for doing favors. Supposedly 13 teams wanted Deshaun Watson and he ended up in Cleveland where he has not played 10 games yet. And he was never hurt like that in Houston and he ain't hurt right now. And they could trade him. How you think he ended up there? They make you think Andrew Berry did his job. No, it's documented. According to Kimberly Martin, it's recorded. Have them say, go get me that guy. Did you not see Andrew Berry in tow behind his boss? Haslam at the Ohio State game. I guess that's where we get to go get me that guy. But he didn't tell Berry to get Shedeur. Not originally. They made Shedeur think that Haslam was in on it. Somebody else made a phone call. It ain't but one branch of the government that can make them move like that. And one of them tweeted it out. So you know what it is. And they ain't cut him yet. Why not? Probably because he got 3 million fans. They don't care about the money that's being made. Believe me. They thought they was going to cut Shedeur after mandatory camp. But he turned out to be the best. They thought they was going to cut Shedeur or Dillon after training camp. They knew they couldn't cut Dillon and keep Shedeur because he going to be breathing down Flacco's neck. And Flacco know it. Flacco don't have no problem with it. He came there for $13 million in incentives that's in his contract for 1 year. Flacco and Shedeur make the same amount of money, $4 million. But Flacco gets it in 1 year. Shedeur, he is spread out over 4 years. So he's been devalued. Flacco is more valuable if you ask Cleveland, but they 0-2. They got Shedeur right there. And they still going to put in Bailey Zapp until somebody intervenes. And it might be coming sooner than you think. Because people just going to sit here and watch this bleed out. Just like Colorado. It ain't a coincidence that Schumer over there and Stefanski over here. It's not. It said, I am still living over the draft and the treatment. Yeah, it's trash. It said Schumer knew what he was doing since claiming Shedeur like Daniel Jones. Right. Picture of Schumer looking at Shedeur, and you could just look at the look on his face. And it seems to me, it seems like he knew that when he took the job, there would be communication with the quarterback, there would be involvement, but he didn't like it. He didn't like it. And he told that to the NFL, and that's why it's documented by an anonymous source that I'm sure it goes right back over there to the New York Giants or the Cleveland Browns. But Cleveland made it very clear. Mary Campbell was very quick to say, yeah, we didn't have nothing to say negative about Shedeur's character like those other teams. You see how they push back from that? So that's why they sticking to his skill set. But you know what? They're going to have to deal with their fans before they get to the last game of the season. So now they're going to have to put Dillon in because Flacco is 0-2. So let's see what they do next week. I don't even watch the highlights. I just look at the stats. I just look at the stats and I just shake my head because you could see with the stats, you can see what it is. You can see that they, in my opinion, they're not trying to win. I think, honestly, they just trying to get to the end of the season. That's really what I think. I think they're just trying to get to the end of the season. So I'll share these stats with y'all. Because I looked at them all day. I was like, this is insane. That you just look at the stats and you could just kind of see, right, that these people just trying to get to the end of the season and get who they think is their great white hope. That's how they treating the draft. That's how they treating the white quarterbacks. They don't care about their talent. They're like, I just want you to be the great white hope. Case in point, Kirk Cousins. Last year, in Atlanta, people were very upset that they drafted Michael Penix in the first round. See, this draft wasn't the first year that they drafted somebody in the first round and try to bench them like that. And they succeeded with Michael Penix, right? So Atlanta was not happy because people thought that Michael Penix Jr. would be the starter, but then Kirk Cousins got the nod, even though they went through training camp and Michael Penix Jr. looked good. And the owner basically went and got Michael Penix Jr. and told the coach who just got hired, which means he put him in a bad situation, I'm going to let you decide who to start. Well, Michael Penix Jr. has come out and said, yeah, he felt like he got tricked or lied. I think he said they lied. He said, I would have never left Minnesota if I would have known they would have drafted so high. In other words, he felt like he was hoodwinked. And I was thinking to myself, I don't know if you know this or not, but they got rid of you. They got rid of, what's his name that went to Seattle? Sam Darnold. And they got rid of Daniel Jones so that J.J. McCarthy didn't have no competition. So they weren't going to keep you no way. So they just really moved Kirk Cousins over so that he could be the starter, but it didn't work out. Just like it's not working out in Cleveland. Now they're going to put Dillon in. They just trying to get to the end of the season. But see, by the end of Atlanta season, they had no choice but to name Michael Penix Jr. the starter. You know why? Because they weren't going to sell no tickets. They weren't going to sell those season tickets. See, the Cleveland fan base and the Atlanta fan base is like night and day. Atlanta, they ride. They ride for this team, but they're not putting up with no foolishness. They're not putting up with no foolishness. There's a picture of a fan, and I know it was supposed to be a meme, but this is how people felt with a gas can standing in front of Mercedes-Benz and like a Molotov cocktail, because that's how the fans felt. Before the season started, it was announced that Michael Penix Jr. was the starter, and now the media want to try it again. Today, why isn't Kirk Cousins the starter? Because the media is part of the establishment that wants to keep the majority of the quarterbacks white. So they're going to keep pushing the narrative and keep telling negative stories about Michael Penix Jr. And they're not going to only do it to Michael Penix Jr. They're going to do it to Cam Ward. They're going to do it until maybe it's only 10 black quarterbacks, because they know coming out of school more and more every year is more than 3 black quarterbacks, because that's what's happened since 2021. So now they're over here trying to stop it in college. And what you saw today disrupted 2 black quarterbacks and a black head coach and selling the story as if this man was underperforming when he just got the job. But a white coach got 2 seasons and 3 games. The way they packaged it tell you they was trying to hide something. They took out 3 black people with 1 white one. So it's going to get more and more treacherous, more and more wicked as they get closer to 17. I guess it just somehow, it just seems to be unnerving to people that they willing to just take somebody out. That's what it seemed like. When I saw Lenor Sellers on the ground for 5 whole minutes, I was like, Lord, have mercy. Sad, but it's true. All right, so these are the stats, right? These are the stats where you have Cleveland. I always like to show you this part, how long it took them to score. They can only muster up 3 points, and it started in the second quarter. Then when you go to the third, they got a touchdown. Then in the fourth, they got a touchdown. So 17-41. If this wasn't bad enough, when you look at Baltimore got 3, then they went to 7, then they went to 10, then they went to 21 points. It's like they delayed their start to winning, and then they just say, look, we tried to hold back as far as we could, but we got to go ahead on and move on. Remember, these people are in the same division. So when we look at the yards, Flacco, again, 45 reps to Lamar Jackson's 29. And he had 199 yards, whereas Lamar had 228 and 4 touchdowns versus Flacco's 1 touchdown and 1 interception. The running game, they already had Quinshon Judkins on the ground. He just got back Wednesday. 10 carries, 61 yards. This is going to be their answer for the rest of the season. with a game manager and Dylan Gabriel. And then there's Derrick Henry. 11 carries for 23 yards for Derrick Henry. Insane. Jerry Jeudy, only 4 receptions for 51 yards. Zay Flowers, 7 receptions, 75 yards. Now, when you look at, let's see, the overview, when you look at the color charts, it just shows you, hold on one second. It just shows you right here. Total yards. The Ravens only had 242 yards to Cleveland's 322. 322 yards, 207 in the air, 115 rushing, 4.5, and they had how many points? 17. That's a whole lot of work for nothing. 41 over here, and they barely broke a sweat. 45 rushing yards from Baltimore. That tells you they were trying to help them. I don't care what nobody say. The NFL has a vested interest in Cleveland not looking like a total crap show, because they know the faster that happens, the more people are going to roar, put Shedeur in. Understand that. It's a lot of guys out here playing ball, but it's a few of them that's not. So over here, they punted the ball 6 times. Baltimore was 5. They lost 1 fumble. They didn't lose any. They had 1 interception. They had the ball for 31 minutes versus they 28. So basically, they had the ball for almost the same amount of time, but it's what they did with it. 72 plays, and they only have 17 points. So this is what people were complaining about today. They were complaining about all of this activity with vanilla plays. You're not trying to win. You are not trying to win. And these people held back as long as they could. 45 yards, that means they didn't let the dogs off the leash. That's what that means. The NFL has a best I can tell you in Cleveland why it is the media is trying to convince its fan base, that Shedeur is not our long-term future. He not good. I know why. Because they want people to keep showing up. And they don't want their fans to get attached to Shedeur, right? They don't want that. So I understand Cleveland. But what I don't understand is why it is that Adam Schefter, who already told us that Shedeur was going to be the number 2 overall pick right before the draft in February, after the combine, why it is that he would sit there and spin a story that makes Shedeur look difficult. It's going to come. It's going to come. It's a reason why they try to make him look difficult. The last time they try to make Shedeur look difficult, they let him fall in the draft. They humiliated him. So maybe they get ready to cut him and they just want everybody to think he's difficult. I don't know. That could be it. You let me know your thoughts. Let's see here. Let's see, James, what you saying? It said nothing is going to happen out of this. We still waiting on the fallout from the first page report obtained by the FBI. NFLPA CEO steps down and the second in charge, and things go away. I don't know. I don't know. I think that's a distraction. I think the NFL Players Association situation is a distraction, but a lot of people don't know about that. So while we know it's happening, a lot of people, that's not mainstream information. So I'm not sure there, but we'll see, James. It said the fans are the same way. They calling for the practice squad QB. Right. There you go, Amber. Thank you. It said they'll keep adding QBs to keep from playing Shedeur. Right. They'll go to Atlanta and get Kirk Cousins because they know he don't want to be QB2 behind Michael Penix Jr. It's crazy that he got a choice after the way he played last season. Salute. How you doing? How you doing, Sonny? Welcome back. It said, Coach Prime, it said, I want to get Byron Leftwich offensive coordinator if they don't win the next game. I don't want nobody else from the NFL in Colorado, but I understand. We want a new OC, right? But I just want it to be the guy that's already on the ground. But we'll see. I think we're on the same page. Everybody want a new OC. It said they want him on the practice squad so somebody else could pick him up and get him out of Cleveland. They could just trade him. They restricted his movement. That's all it is. It said Shedeur being sabotaged. It said, I'm even if the quarterback's in from Shedeur isn't playing well, he would still be on the bench. Right. And what does it prove, Sonny? It proves collusion. That's why I said at some point, it's like at this point, they stuck on stupid. And here's what I mean by that. When people are stuck on stupid, they can't help themselves until they crash out. In other words, you've been going and going and going because you feel like you've gotten away with it. You got over a hurdle and you still gotten away with it, but now you stuck. You got to keep going. You got to keep going, right? Let me see. I think is it 2 lawsuits out there now? It's 2 lawsuits, and and you can slow things down in court. But in addition to 2 lawsuits, you still at it. You still at it, and people see it. And now you have GMs from other teams saying, no, we had a score on him in the first round. So maybe Adam Schefter coming out and making Shedeur seem difficult is a distraction from the fact that 3 teams say they had. I mean, that's cause for an investigation, right? Think about it. If 3 teams have a first round grade on Shedeur, and Shedeur is still listed as a first round pick, that's cause for an investigation. Because Boomer Esiason already told us. He already told us. They took him off the board because he was entitled. And in the NFL, like James just told us over there looking at the NFL Players Association, and I told you, I can start over here and I can expand my scope over there. Maybe it's a distraction. Because you got to be bold to still be trying to violate this young man's civil rights and other Black quarterbacks and meddling over in college because you so desperate for there not to be 17 Black quarterbacks. It seemed like it's going to happen anyway. It don't matter if you take Caleb's job from him, you still got to pay him because he was first pick overall guaranteed. It don't matter if you hold Cam Ward back all season long. They still going to get the 17 in the season or in the draft. So what you did was just expose yourself. You can't hold back the inevitable if that's what God wants. And clearly that's what God wants because that's who opened the door for Shedeur. So again, it's not Shedeur versus the establishment. It's the establishment versus God. And y'all already know how that's going to end up. So again, how much money is Shedeur going to end up with? Just like Deshaun Watson. It said the NFL is a circus. It said, yeah, the NFL is a circus. It's definitely kind of crazy right now because you can kind of see all of the running around and trying to hold back 7. I'm like, y'all really this serious? Y'all doing all of this? You really gonna light everything on fire so there's not one more Black starting quarterback? That's really what's happening, y'all. It's that who wants to trade for him? Nobody's gonna trade. Because his movement is restricted. If they were smart, they would make a trade. Because then people could say, oh, other people wanted him. And maybe that's why Adam Schefter sat down and told you that it wasn't collusion, that other people wanted to get him, but he said no. So again, maybe they're trying to say the owners didn't take him off the board. There's a reason for it. We'll find out in a couple of days. It's that we don't know until collusion is done. Facts. It said, I believe Cleveland put that out. They've been briefing against Shedeur from they've been what? Oh, yeah, I agree. It said, or they can just let him go to another league. He's rich already. He wants to play. Right. And that's where draft and destroy comes in at. See, they've done this before, right? They've taken a lot of Black QB talent that they said the quarterback is the thinking man's position. And when they couldn't switch him off to wide receiver, defensive back, or running back anymore, what they do? Draft and destroy. Draft, devalue, destroy, which means bury on the depth chart, rotate to another bad team, 2-3 years you out the league. Tyrod Taylor's still in the league because he's suing them. Geno Smith probably was on his way out, but since they wanted to block Shedeur from Vegas, they uprooted him from a team where he was good and sent him over there with Pete Carroll. It's a whole lot happening to block Shedeur Sanders. I want y'all to know. And the crazy part is now you got to block Shedeur Sanders. You got to block Lenor Sellers. You got to block Thomas Castellanos and whoever that is over there balling out at Arkansas. You got to block him too. And eventually you're going to have to block Juju. You're going to have to block Bryce Young. It's so many Black quarterbacks. You're going to have to block Kyron Drones. And maybe that's why his coach just got fired, because now the players can get in the portal. But we're talking about quarterbacks here. We're talking about a quarterback that was supposed to be going to the league in Kyron Drones. How am I go to the league if I can't play? That's disruption. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to see where he lands, because dismissing his coach means he can get in a portal a red shirt and it delays his entry to the league, or it disrupts it altogether. Nico, retaliation, because he had the audacity to lead Tennessee. We gonna see. Deshaun Foster, collateral damage. And that's a spot that they can put a white coach in. So we gonna see. That's why I say you gotta pay attention to where these people land. It said, you see, they don't put cameras on Shedeur Sanders. Nah, I didn't watch the game. I don't watch the game. So I don't even watch the highlights. I look at the stats that I showed you. That told me everything I need to know. I checked to see if Shedeur was inactive. It said he was inactive, so I didn't even waste my time. Now, the day they don't rule him inactive, you might see him, but that could be a ploy for us to watch, because people aren't really watching. So, but they home game sold out, so they don't care. They're just trying to get to the end of the season. It said, I don't believe that story about him not wanting to go to Baltimore. He jumped in the pool about going to Cleveland, right? And honestly, it could be all fiction, right? And the question is, I mean, they done lied on him before, right? They lied about sending out his phone number. They blamed Atlanta. Why you think they chose Atlanta? Because his daddy played at Atlanta, and you would think this is about his dad. You see how they made Coach Prime a scapegoat and the CU program collateral damage, to the point where they willing to take down that whole program, just so you'll think it's about Coach Prime. This didn't have nothing to do with Coach Prime, because Lenor Sellers, Thomas Castellanos, Cam Ward, Caleb, Bryce, all them people, none of them related. Lamar Jackson, none of them are related to Coach Prime. All of the trouble that they went through was for nothing, because 17-32 is going to happen, whether it's Shedeur or not. And whether Shedeur is in the NFL or not, he's going to go on to be greatness. If he goes on to the NFL, he's going to be great, just like Baker Mayfield. But if they like, nah, we can't let him play because then we said he wasn't good and we lied. You already caught busted. We saw him play. We already know Cleveland is a bold-faced lie, but you're going to keep on. So if you kick him out the league, somebody better turn around from that side and sue under the ground and get some equity while you at it. But there's a reason why they kept thinking they was going to let him go, and they can't. So I told y'all, he got some kind of leverage that he don't know who he have. And I'm going to just attribute it to God, because that's who they at war with, not Shedeur. So stay tuned. It says Stefanski is trash. Straight. It said, yeah, but the Ravens would have did him better than Cleveland. False. Cleveland is doing what they told. Remember, all 32 owners, accordingly to what's been reported, didn't want Shedeur, but 3 of them say that's a lie. So we gonna see. It said, I'm glad they don't put him on camera. Yeah, you don't put him on camera. Complaining about his celebrity, but then using it at the same time is crazy. Asking Joe Flacco if Shedeur's celebrity is a problem, but you keep trying to siphon off of it. Yeah, Cleveland's just a dumpster. That's what people don't understand. I think they've been doing favors. That's what I think. I think they got RG3 after he left Washington after they scandal. They got Tyrod Taylor, who's currently suing them. That case supposed to go to trial in October of this year. They did Deshaun Kaiser dirty. Drafted Myles Garrett in the first round, because they have never had a black starting quarterback QB franchise in the first round. So they got their franchise quarterback out the second round, which is supposed to not be a starter. So see, the NFL going against its own rules and processes, upending everything to hold back 17 black quarterbacks. I'm like, y'all crazy. To the point where they going by the 1-drop rule. They don't give a damn. They like, I can't do it. Can't do it. Yep. It said they tricked him into coming to Cleveland. They didn't trick him. They sent him there. He had absolutely no choice. It said, if you eat at Ruth's Chris, a Brazilian steakhouse, and get bologna, why would you still be spending your money at that establishment? That's the question for the Browns. That's the question for the Browns fans. And I think one of their podcasters asked the question for the Browns fans, what is it going to take for y'all to move away from these people? I told you, I haven't had a chance to sit down and look to see if Cleveland has what Atlanta has in terms of marketing it for activities. Atlanta has something that go out every week from several different platforms that tells you the things to do in Atlanta this weekend. And sometimes it tells you this month. So it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff to the point you got to press and hold the screen and read everything because it's so much. I don't. I get the impression that the Browns football game is kind of like shopping at the Louis Vuitton store. Something a lot of people want to do, but everybody can't do it. So it's a status symbol. That's what it's given from way over here in Atlanta. That's what it's given, right? Matter of fact, I didn't even know Georgia Tech was playing Clemson in town. You see, it's so much going on. And mind you, it's right here. And I still didn't know. I said, that's crazy, right? Had no clue. Atlanta is 15 minutes long. It's it, right? I don't think Cleveland had that. I feel like that's their status symbol. It got to be. Why else would they let them move out of Cleveland to the middle to Brook Park, which is not that far, and say that what they're building in Brook Park is for all of Ohio, like the Bengals don't exist? And they got $600 million to do it and have done nothing as a franchise. And they got their stadium. And now Philadelphia, who just won the Super Bowl, got a stadium. Well, that makes sense. But it don't make sense why Cleveland has a stadium other than they've been doing favors. If you look at the quarterbacks that have come there, and Chicago is the second team to have the most revolving doors for quarterbacks. And look at Caleb and look at Justin Fields. Favors. This their reward for doing favors. It said they try hard not to, but they had to photograph him with LeJohntay today. Yep. It said they're constantly photographing him. Yep. Does anybody remember when Shedeur was in Carolina and he was with Jimmy? Does anybody remember that? I ain't seen Jimmy that much since. I said, wait a minute. And Jimmy was inactive today. I looked it up. I said, so hold on. Y'all was using Jimmy to pull us in because you knew you was going to play Cleveland. And after Jimmy and Shedeur, Jimmy was like, I'm mic'd up or whatever. He went back to, they's like, they don't even know he over there. I'm like, this is crazy. All of this for Shedeur. Or you mad because Jimmy told him he was mic'd up. Why would you mic up a 6th-round pick? Why would they mic up Shedeur? You see? It's like we want you, but not to be a quarterback. And they know they can't ask him to work out as a wide receiver. They know they can't ask him to switch positions to a running back. They know they can't. They know they can't. So they just didn't want him altogether, but they couldn't resist exploiting him because he's so popular that it eats them alive that they had to exploit it. And that's how they got exposed. If you would genuinely didn't want him, no parts of him, you wouldn't have invited him to the combine. The NFL still has to answer for that. The NFL still has to answer why you draft him if you say you didn't want him before the combine, because it looks like everything you did afterwards was just to devalue him. And now you won't let him go. So first you didn't want him and now you holding him hostage. Oh, okay. All right. Well, like I say, stuck on stupid until everything crash out. Because you see the truth is coming out. You see people starting to talk. Nobody thinks Shedeur is difficult except for the people who don't like him anyway. And nobody cares what they think. Just you want to be honest. Nobody cares what they think. Nobody cares what people who don't like Shedeur think. So putting out a story with Adam Schefter in the lead, basically making it seem like, yeah, he difficult. Bro, we don't care. It said, why keep lying? It says Shedeur said he didn't know anything about that. See? Facts. It said lies always move faster than the truth. Facts. It said, let's give a shout out to Terrence Bud Crawford. Okay, George, you keep saying that. I don't know much about boxing, so I can't appreciate it. So I'm just going to say congratulations. I'm assuming congratulations. I saw your comment earlier. That's hilarious. Yeah, I can't say much about it because I don't know much about that subject. So it said, I have said this. 800 times. It's deeper than football. Shadur is God's kid. That's it. That's it. I love CC. That's it. And that's who they at war with. It said, I bet your man love you. It's, oh, thank you. Thank you. That's funny. That is hilarious. Thank you so much, Turner. I appreciate it. It said there were 3 other players in the draft who got those prank phone calls because they didn't get the same phone call from the same guy. That's why they're not talking about it. See, they only used the prank plot because the pranks were already happening. So they thought they was going to slide one in. But see, where they messed up, they already disconnected that number. But we saw, I don't care who the number was. I saw on video who made the call. I know he wearing an Ole Miss sweatshirt. That was a dead giveaway because we know that the owner's son has black hair. We know he goes to Berry College. So we know all of these executives were somewhere together. That's what we know. And Berry College is in New York. The New York Giants, I believe they in New York too, right? Okay. All right. So everybody had them gathered somewhere to watch the draft, and they had all this inside information, and they was talking around this young man, and they either asked him to make the call, which is why he was reading off a piece of paper. They want to stick it to Shedeur. What the NFL don't want to do after being exposed that they were the ones that gave out Shedeur number. They don't want nobody to make the connection to the GM other than that's supposedly the daughter's boyfriend. That's why they're not talking about that. That's huge. That's huge. That means y'all were working together. One of you gave out his number, the league itself, and the only organization to defame him, which means the NFL lied. We know that part already. It's coming together. The longer, and it's funny, they could let him go, but it's a reason why they won't. It's the reason why they won't, unless they like, hey, we better get rid of him. But at this point, they done gone too far. They done gone too far to let him go now. It's kind of like the Deshaun Watson thing, right? Deshaun Watson asked for a trade. And 3 months later, women were found. Not coming forward, found. But Deshaun Watson wasn't the only one. So that means that plan backfired. So I need to backpedal off of that. You see? We already know this plan backfired. So they holding him hostage and then tried to get rid of him 3 times and can't. They tried not to draft him. Still had to draft him. At what point do you stop? We'll see. Keep paying attention. It said, good evening. Hey, Kiel, how you doing? Did you watch the Giants and Dallas today? It said, I hope Shedeur is practicing on his own. Yeah, I think he is, Mike. I think he is. It's called NFL redlining. That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. Collusion, but it's redlining. It said ATL just scored. Atlanta 22, Minnesota 6. Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's right here on TV, but I'm not paying attention. Thank you, Isaiah. It said they're going to trade him to Atlanta for Cousins. I could see it. Let me look at that division and see. Remember this chart right here, guys. All right. So now y'all know the black circles, all these people with circles, I don't care if it's yellow, red, black, brown, tan, are all black people, right? Some of them have moved around the tan and the brown colors, but that's not what we focused on. Okay, I want y'all to look at where Baltimore is. You see Lamar Jackson is there, right? Technically, Cleveland has 2 black quarterbacks. They have Shedeur and they have Deshaun. It was said that Cleveland was chosen for Shedeur to go there because it wouldn't be a game for black quarterbacks because Deshaun is already there. So it'd be like, instead of Deshaun would be 17 or 16 and Shedeur wouldn't become 17. He would become 16A. You get it? So look up here in the NFC East. Now, which team up here you think he will go to? AI said about 5 years from now, he's going to end up in Minnesota. So that means something going to happen for the NFL to change. But AI is speaking strictly off of statistics, right? And it tells you that for Shedeur to be an MVP about 5 years down the road, that the NFL is purposefully holding him back. And they looked at all these types of things to see what the future looks like, and they didn't like it. So they're trying to manipulate it with the draft and in college. And to me, it's I feel like it's more prevalent in college. It's more noticeable in college right now. I didn't really notice it like that last year. I picked up on it with the SEC. I picked up on it with Jalen Milroe. I followed his story and Jackson Dart. And I noticed how they were trashing Milroe. And he and Jackson Dart had damn near twin QBR ratings. And then I went back and followed up with Alabama, noticing that they fired their, I think, OC for lack of QB development and bad play calling, but they never came back and vindicated Jalen Milroe. And then I saw what happened in the draft. They barely talked about him. And then that's when I was looking at 15 black quarterbacks in 2024, and I looked at the top 10, and I saw where Shedeur and Cam were at the bottom. I said, oh, the league is getting ready to flip to a majority of black starting quarterbacks. And Shedeur and Cam and Milroe are 3 additional quarterbacks like the last 3 or 4 years. So that means they're going to go 16, 17, 18 by the time the draft is over. They manipulated that. And they being blatant with it, with this whole Arch Manning thing, and now it's not working out. And with them being quiet, you know what they're doing? They plotting. They trying to figure out right now how to stop Lenor Sellers from being the number 1 quarterback coming out of college. Because guess who has the number 1 pick? Cleveland. They already got Shedeur and don't want him. You really think they want Lenor Sellers? Were they at South Carolina game? So they quietly somewhere plotting, trying to figure out, and maybe it's going to be Haynes King. They going to find somebody or some type of event is going to occur that either Cleveland going to trade that pick like the Titans tried to do, or they going to find a way to stop Lenor Sellers from becoming QB1, coming out first pick overall like Cam, because there's your 17. It means you wasted your time. So they plotting, manipulating, scheming, moving people around, firing folks. When I heard some wide receivers got dropped for fumbling the ball, I'm like, now what's this about? And now we seeing coaches being fired in season. So now it's becoming norm that you just out here discarding people, but you packaging it up like they underperforming. But what you're not telling us is Deshaun Foster was only there for 3 games. You can't fire somebody after 3 games. What's the cause? What is the cause? Right? This other guy wasn't over there for 3 games. He lost 3 games, but he was there for 2 seasons. So he got 2 seasons, and Deshaun Foster got 3. What does that look like? Got 3 games. What does that look like? It looks like there's a disparity in how black head coaches and white head coaches are treated. And it looked like the NFL and the NCAA and the NFL working together to hold back these black quarterbacks. So if you look at this chart right here and you look at the division, which is the AFC North, you see Shedeur would have gone supposedly here to Baltimore, right? Which means he'd be buried. He'd never have an opportunity. So you got all this elite talent stacked up on teams. Go up here to the NFC East. That's exactly what's happening. These are 2 black quarterbacks. The black circle is QB1. The gray one is QB2. Or somebody else. Could be QB3, QB4. But they paired up together. This is technically Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. There were 2 in Philadelphia, but they cut DTR. So he's gone. So you can change this and they could put Shedeur right there. Do not forget, Andrew Berry's twin brother is senior vice president of operations or something. This strategic something, decision-making ability to be involved in a trade. Shedeur could end up right there in Cleveland behind Jalen Hurts. But what you're seeing is the NFL collude to restrict Shedeur's movement so that he does not ever become a QB1. Yep. You say you could be an investigator, sis. Thank you. That's so funny. It's simple. Y'all invited him to Green Bay for the draft because y'all knew he was first round. He denied coming. Right. And what did the headline say the next day? It's a good thing Shedeur didn't come to Green Bay because he was locked out of the first round. These people have told everything they have done is out there. They so quick to publish everything. And I love screenshots. Tina said, RB he's not going to get a chance. No, he's not. It said they're going to try to revision his abilities like they did for Kaepernick. What you mean by that? Biko, let me know. I'm not sure what you mean. But yeah, he's not going to get a fair opportunity unless whatever happened for him to get drafted, it's going to take something on that level for them to. And here's the thing. I'm still thinking to myself, y'all could still get to 17 before the season ends. That means you're going to have 18 in the next draft. But the question is, are they going to stop messing with Shedeur? No. You know why? Because they started. And they didn't intend to go this long. They thought he was going to be gone by mandatory camp. They thought he was going to be gone by training camp. So now they got to figure out what to do. They might just have to close their eyes and hold their nose and go underwater and try to hold their breath and just cut him, knowing it's going to cause some kind of problem. But the longer they keep him, the more the truth is coming out, and they don't seem to be able to free themselves from the stupidity to the point where he's going to be right there next year, and they still going to have some other black quarterbacks, unless, let me see, you're going to fire Caleb Williams and pay him? Probably. And then we're going to be back next year. And then the year after that. This is a battle that they are losing to the point the league just going to be mediocrity. And it's all for optics. It's all for optics because they don't want to see two black quarterbacks play. But if you look at the NFC East and their conference games, isn't that exactly what you're going to see? Whatever this division is with New York, that's exactly what you're going to see for the conference games. And if Shedeur or Deshaun is over here, you're going to at least see two some of the time. So why is it okay for Shedeur to go to Baltimore and not Pittsburgh? Why was Mike Tomlin dissuaded? Because he talked about it. They just think people forgot. Why? Why they didn't want Shedeur to go to Pittsburgh? Because Russell Wilson left Denver, went to Pittsburgh as QB2 and became QB1 and took them to the playoffs. So they're not just holding back Shedeur. They're holding back Mike Tomlin too. If Mike Tomlin call you and tell you he got a player for you, hang up on him. So that's it. That's it. 17-32. And they just going to keep on. And these players going to keep playing quarterback. They're going to keep coming out in numbers. They're going to keep trying to stack the deck, and it's going to keep failing. They quiet because Arch Manning didn't work out. So how does Cleveland avoid drafting Lenor Sellers first instead of Arch Manning? Because we see that didn't work out. That's going to be the question. And you're going to have to watch, and you're going to have to see what happened every week. Because he was laid out on the ground for 5 minutes. He's concussed. So maybe he can't play the next game. Maybe he drops in the draft. Keep paying attention. It's wicked out here. The closer you get to 17, it's wicked. All right. I'm going to get myself out of here. Excellent conversation, y'all. There were, let's see. How many of us? 217 of us. Hit the like button for me. Hit the like button. I did take a look at Coach Prime's contract. I'll be back tomorrow. It's work day, so we'll be back tomorrow to talk about the implications of what happened to Deshaun Foster happening to Coach Prime, how it actually could happen, how the fix could already be in, whether Coach Prime knows or not, what the boosters have to do with it, and how they influence coaches to get fired and what they do beyond that, and why they have more say so, even more so this year with the NIL rules being different. So we'll be back tomorrow. Not saying it's gonna happen, but we're saying we're starting to see some things happen in Colorado that typically don't take place where Coach Prime is concerned, like his hand is being forced, and who else would force it other than the boosters or the university itself? So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports. Thanks, everybody. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports. Be sure to join our daily live stream and listen up to What She Said Sports on the go on Spotify. Thank you for watching What She Said Sports.
Stay for another video.